In this short video tutorial, I want to show you how you can use form input, an if statement, and a few other tricks to send the user back to the form if they don't fill out the form correctly. So for this example, I'm going to be using, again, this very generic, very simple test form with one form field that just has generic data in it. It's going to submit to this script, and you can see here I've already gotten the form field from the post and put it into a variable called form field. It is sometimes helpful to use the same variable name that you're using for your form fields just to sort of keep everything simple for yourself. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to check to see if the user has put anything at all into the form field. It's just generic data, so I'm not going to do any real validation of that data or see if it's an email address or any sort of particular data, or even check and see if it's a number like we did before. In this case, I just want to look and see if the user put something in there, and if they didn't, I want to send them back to the form with a message. So this is how I'm going to do that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an if statement, and inside the parentheses for the expression, I'm going to say strlen, which measures the length of whatever data I put in here. So whatever variable I put in here, strlen will send me back an integer or a number that tells me how many characters long that data is. So for example, if I put in a form field, it's going to tell me how many characters are in that. And so if that is equal to 0, in other words, if that's an empty string, or if the user didn't put anything in there at all, then I'm going to send the user back, send them back to the form. If they did put something in there, then I'm just going to take that form field and I'm going to put it into a variable called message, which you can see I will just display down here. So if they put something in there, we're going to display the message. If not, though, I want to send them back to the form. And what I'm going to do with that, or how I'm going to do that, is I'm going to use the header function, which is a PHP function that allows you to write specific information to the page header, which will allow us to send them back to the form. So if I wanted to do that, I will use the header function, and I'm going to give it a string. And that string is going to start with location. That's telling the header that we're going to send the user to a different location. So note capital L and the colon at the end there. And now I'm just going to type in the URL, which is testform.php. So now I can send them back to that. And you can see that this is going to work right here. Okay, so if I enter a number and I submit it, it shows the results. If I enter nothing in that form and hit submit, you can see here it's just submitting. You can't really see it because it's happening so quickly, but there is a way that I can make it clear that it's working, and that is what we learned before by giving it a query string. So if I add on to that URL inside the location string inside the header function, I'm going to add a question mark at the end, and I'm going to write ERR equals empty. So now this will be added to the end of that, and it looks, since it's a query string, I can tell it's a query string because of the question mark here. What the receiving script will understand is that it's sending a variable called ERR, and the value of that variable will be the string empty. So now on the form field side, or on the form side, I can actually put in some PHP script to watch for that and then do something. So I'm going to put an if statement here on the form, right between the form field and the submit button. So it'll appear right below the form field. And I'm going to say if is set, which is a function in PHP that checks to see if a variable is set or not. So is set, get ERR. So if it's set, then do this. And what I'm going to do is I want to check to make sure that that particular error, because remember I'm sending the word empty, so I'm going to put another if statement. These are called nested if statements. I'm going to put this in, and it's going to say if get ERR equals empty, then do this. So basically what I'm saying here is if that variable is set in the get in the query string and it equals the word empty, then do the following. And what I'm going to have it do is print out some HTML code, a paragraph that is the class ERR. That's a class I've defined, so it shows up in red text, so it's nice and visible. You must fill out all fields. And then I'm going to close that paragraph. So it's actually going to print this HTML only if this exists. Otherwise, it's just going to not be there at all. I need to make sure that I have the PHP tag written in, PHP. Otherwise, I'm going to get some weird stuff going on, and check everything. Now, when I go to the form, I can submit that normally. It works fine. But if it's empty, now it's going to submit that empty container. It's going to bounce us back to the form, and it'll display the error code. You can see here that this is triggered by that query string. So that is how you can give constructive feedback to users.